Hello everybody, here's Thomas once again, responding to Colin's latest video in which he answered my questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Collins. I really appreciated your response to me. Because I have a time limit of 10 minutes, so I will only focus on one of the subject which we spoke earlier, and that is Muhammad's alleged satanic revelations and possibilities of his misunderstanding about it. I think I was not clear in my last video about Ibn Ishaq. Few points for your kind consideration, Mr. Collins. I did not say that Ibn Ishaq invented this story. If it came to you like this, then my apologies. I meant that he quoted this story in his work. Now the question was why a person like him, who was a devoted Muslim, would like to present the satanic versus incident in his work, knowing fully that it may well cause some stir among Muslims. I can safely assume he was an intelligent man, and the reason he thought to bring the life of Muhammad to others was, I guess, to present a full picture of Muhammad's life. Now one can also assume that what he heard was at least not that old, as he was one of the earliest biographer of Muhammad. Now you said, Mr. Collins, that he was not the early biographer. I know this, and if you listen to my last video, you will hear that I said he is considered as one of the earliest biographer and not the first biographer, if you're thinking I said this. I want to explain this to you further. Let's say 100 years ago your forefathers were companion of a great man, and you have heard these stories from your own forefathers, maybe your grandfather. Then this may have more value than the one who write this story 200 or 300 years later. Think about the time and political situation of situation after Ibn Ishaq, and then think of the time when Bukhari or Muslims were writing hadiths. Is there any chance they may have removed something, considering this cannot be true? We know that they both actually rejected countless hadith narration simply because they felt that it may not be for a true story, or must be an invention of enemies of Islam or liars. Now his work is really important in the sense that he was writing this work almost 100 years plus after Muhammad's demise from the world, where hadith collectors was writing these more than 2 or 3 centuries later. By the way, is it not strange to you that it seems that the later a biographer came in Muslim history, the more he knows about Muhammad, where early biographers know very little about them or have less knowledge? This does not make any sense. However, it's normal in writing history, and this is a big problem of oral transmissions. You cannot rely on them. People add things or remove things from them. Unfortunately, Islamic history seems transmitted more orally than written down as a text. You said I had double standards speaking of hadiths. Well, Mr. Collins, I had to present proofs from the hadiths as well, because you seem to accept hadiths more than the seerah of Ibn Ishaq. It's not picking and choosing few items, it's to explain the points with more and supporting evidence from all the so-called history of Islam. I touched in my last video the scenario of Muhammad's lifetime and customs of Arabia. I will talk about it further here. I would like to know, and if you kindly tell us, when Muhammad saw Gabriel, he thought he saw a Satan. It's little strange, though he was an Arab from 7th sea, but somehow Allah did not put much effort to convince him in the first place. He had to go to Khadija and his cousin for help, and after the suggestions from both of them, he was a bit calm. It also seems that Allah did not know Muhammad was an illiterate or ummi, as the first commands to him were to read, where Muhammad could not read or write. He even replied to Gabriel, or the angel, that he cannot read. So Muhammad had all the reasons to believe he saw Satan, and he even became suicidal afterwards. Even people of Mecca accused him to be like a man possessed, and man who is a madman, and the Quran confirmed this too. So his appearance was clear to people. Now the question is, if he was a superstitious man, and if he had all the reasons to believe he saw Satan, what credence should we give to his message or Quranic revelation, which he allegedly received much later from God? I quoted some of these in my last video, which suggests that he remained as a superstitious man in his whole life, believing in magic and believing in things like eating ajwa dates will save people from poisoning or magic. He believed other totally superstitions and strange things, like in one of the hadith he was saying, and I quote from Sahih Bukhari, volume 1, book 6, number 315, narrated by Anas bin Malik. The Prophet said, "At every womb Allah appoints an angel who says, O Lord, a drop of semen, O Lord, a clot, O Lord, a little lump of flesh." Then if Allah wishes to complete its creation, the angel asks, O Lord, will it be male or female, a wretched or a blessed, and how much will his provision be, and what will be his age be? So all that is written while the child is still in the mother's womb. Now he was saying all kind of superstitious things, and yet do you believe Allah did not correct him? Allah knew fully that his sayings will be examined much later, and people will have difficult time to believe in such absurdities. But still he did not bother to correct his messenger. You said, sir, that some of these hadiths may have metaphorical meaning. Well, really, how do you know this? Your only source is some of the Islamic scholars who had difficult times to accept that such things came from Muhammad's mouth. So what they did, they just concluded it must be metaphorical, where in reality Muhammad, who was an Arab of 7th CE, literally believes these things. The reason I'm telling you these things that present a mental picture of an Arab of 7th CE who believe in these sorts of things, and in this context it is really not strange to note that he was misled by Satan easily. Muhammad did say these things, and you can read them in Sahih Hadith, and they don't make any sense. I would like to hear from you the evidence from Quran, and let me repeat once again, sir, only from the Quran where did Allah mention that Muhammad's knowledge, which he received allegedly from God, was a metaphorical instance. You also have to understand that the people who he was preaching were like him, superstitious people. Nobody actually objected Muhammad that what are you saying here? They believed him literally. If Muhammad said something in metaphorical sense, then some of these people had problem accepting Muhammad's command. I don't see any objection from them either. They thought that Muhammad is saying what the Muhammad is saying is literal, and it must be true. In the hadith where Muhammad said Allah points an angel to every womb, meant literally, and his companions who had no knowledge about whatsoever about the medical knowledge, they thought it must be true, because as Muhammad is the God messenger for them. What will you do if you believe in someone blindly and supposedly that the person received divine information from his Lord? I think the case is very simple to understand. Thank you very much for listening, and peace be with you all. I will talk in the next video about some other points which I may have missed here. Thank you very much.